Rashomon by Ryunosuke Akutagawa.
To what depths will a person sink, merely to survive? So mused a man, standing at that precipice beneath a derelict gate, slick with acid rain. It was evening on a certain day. A solitary servant waited beneath the Rashomon gate for the rain to cease. Beneath the colossal, crumbling gate, there was no one else but this man. On a fractured concrete pillar, the red neon characters spelling Rashomon bled and blurred in the rain. Normally, besides this man, there should have been 2 or 3 others seeking refuge from the rain. Yet, save for him, there was no one else. This was because, for several years now, this city had been relentlessly assailed by recession and ruin. Megacorporations had siphoned off all the wealth they could, then abandoned the lower sectors and departed. Jobs vanished, power grids failed, and the acid rain corroded the metal. The towering ruins where people once dwelt were now stripped of their wiring, their walls shattered, sold off piece by piece as materials for the black market. The Rashomon was no different. This colossal gate, built in an age long past, no one bothered to repair any longer. Taking advantage of its desolation, outlaws took up residence, then scavengers, until finally they began to bring unclaimed corpses, broken synthetic bodies, and the remains of cyborgs, and abandoned them at this gate. Thus, when dusk fell, everyone grew uneasy and avoided approaching the gate. In their stead, swarms of surveillance drones gathered from somewhere. Their red lights blinking, they circled above the gate, scavenging for valuable components from the abandoned corpses. Though, perhaps because of the late hour today, not a single one was visible. Only the scattered black stains of drone oil clinging to the crumbling steps could be seen. The retainer, perched on the topmost stair, let the acid rain soak the hem of his threadbare jacket. His gaze, distant and unfocused, watched the downpour, his attention fixed on a nascent blemish on his right cheek. The servant, I wrote, was waiting for the rain to cease. Yet, even if the rain did stop, the servant had no destination in mind. Ordinarily, he would have returned to his master's abode. However, 4 or 5 days prior, he had been terminated by that very master. As noted before, this city was crumbling, and no one paid mind to the life of a single soul. That a long-abused servant was one day abruptly cast out was but a small ripple in its collapse. Thus, rather than saying, the servant waited for the rain to cease, it would be more accurate to say, trapped by the rain, the servant, with nowhere to go, was at a loss. The rain, having begun, showed no sign of abating. The servant, above all else, sought to secure his sustenance for the morrow. That is to say, he sought to make possible that which was impossible. And as his aimless thoughts wandered, he had, for some time now, been listening, though not truly hearing, to the sound of the rain falling on the neon-streaked alley. To mend what cannot be mended, one cannot afford to be fastidious about the means. To be so would be to court a death in the gutter, to end cast aside like a dog beneath a crumbling wall. If one is not to be fastidious, then there is no path to survival but to become a thief. The servant's thoughts, after circling repeatedly back to the same point, finally arrived there. Yet this notion of there being no alternative but to become a thief remained, no matter how long he pondered, ultimately a state of no alternative. Though his mind acknowledged that he could not be particular about the means, the servant simply could not muster the courage to clearly affirm the next step, to become a thief. The servant sneezed a mighty sneeze, then sluggishly rose to his feet. The city, chilled by night, was already cold enough to yearn for fire. The wind, unforgiving, tore through the gaps between the crumbling pillars. The retainer hunched his shoulders, pulling his jacket collar high, and surveyed the area around the gate. He sought a place where he might shelter from the acid rain and wind, hidden from prying eyes, a place where he could perhaps snatch a night's sleep with ease. Then his gaze fell upon a wide metal ladder leading to the upper tier of the gate. Up there, even if someone were present, it would surely be only synthetic corpses. The servant, careful lest the old samurai sword at his hip slip from its sheath, set one foot upon the lowest rung of the ladder. Some minutes later, halfway up the ladder that led to the upper story of the Rashomon, a man crouched, still as a cat, holding his breath, peering at the scene above. A faint light, filtering from above, glistened on the man's right cheek. It was a cheek marred by a red, festering pimple amidst a short, unkempt stubble. From the outset, the servant had presumed only corpses lay above. Yet, after ascending 2 or 3 steps, he discerned that someone above had lit a lamp, and moreover, seemed to be moving it hither and thither. A murky yellow light, flickering and reflecting on the ceiling laced with tangled wires, immediately gave it away. On this night of acid rain, no mere human could possibly be burning a light atop this Rashomon. The retainer, muffling his footsteps, crept up the steep ladder to its very top rung. Then, pressing his body as low as possible and craning his neck as far forward as he could, he peered cautiously inside. Upon looking, he saw, just as the rumors had described, numerous corpses haphazardly discarded within. The reach of the light was narrower than he had expected, so their exact number remained unknown. What could be vaguely discerned, however, was that there were both naked remains, stripped of their machinery, and corpses still clad in garments. Each of them, once living, laughing, and lying humans, now lay sprawled on the floor, mouths agape, arms flung out, transformed into mere lumps of matter, almost beyond belief. The servant involuntarily covered his nose, assaulted by the stench of decay. Yet, in the very next moment, he had forgotten to cover it. A powerful emotion had almost entirely usurped the man's sense of smell. It was then that the servant's eyes first perceived a human figure crouched among the corpses. It was a short, emaciated, white-haired old woman, like a monkey, clad in faded, ancient garments. In one hand, she held a small light, peering intently into the face of a single cadaver. From the long hair visible, it was likely the corpse of a woman. The old woman, having thrust the lamp into a crevice in the floor, laid both hands upon the neck of the corpse she had been staring at. Then, precisely as a mother ape might delouse her young, she began to pluck out its long hairs, one by one. The hair, it seemed, came away easily with each tug of her hand. As each strand of hair was plucked, the servant's terror gradually receded. In its place, a fierce hatred for this old woman slowly began to well up. No, to say "for this old woman" might be misleading. Rather, it was a revulsion against all evil that grew stronger with every passing minute. At that moment, if someone had confronted the servant with the very question he had pondered earlier beneath the gate, to perish in the wild or to become a thief, he would likely have chosen the former without a moment's hesitation. So fiercely did this man's heart burn with hatred for evil, like the lamp the old woman had thrust into the floor. The servant, of course, could not fathom why the old woman plucked hair from the dead. He could not, therefore, rationally categorize it as good or evil. Yet, for the servant, on this rainy night, atop this Rashomon, the very act of plucking hair from a corpse was in itself an unforgivable depravity. Indeed, the servant had long since forgotten that, but moments ago, he himself had contemplated becoming a thief. With a surge of strength in his legs, the servant vaulted up the ladder. His hand on the hilt of his samurai sword, he strode with great steps towards the old woman. Her astonishment was absolute. The old woman, seeing the servant, sprang up as if struck. "Where do you think you are going, wretch?" The retainer, stumbling over a synthetic corpse, blocked the path of the old woman, who was attempting to flee in a panic, and cursed her. Still, the old woman tried to push past him. The retainer, however, would not let her go, pushing her back. Amidst the corpses, the two grappled in silence for a time, but the outcome was clear from the start. Finally, the retainer seized the old woman's arm and forcibly threw her down. It was an arm like a chicken's leg, nothing but bone and skin. "What were you doing? Speak. If you do not, this awaits you." The servant shoved the old woman away, then abruptly drew his katana, thrusting the gleam of its white blade before her eyes. Yet the old woman remained silent. Her hands trembled violently, her shoulders heaved with ragged breaths, and her eyes, wide as if about to burst from their sockets, stared fixedly, stubbornly, like a mute. Upon seeing this, the servant, for the first time, clearly grasped that the old woman's life and death lay entirely within his power, and that realization, imperceptibly, cooled the hatred that had burned so fiercely within him. All that remained was the serene pride and satisfaction of a task accomplished. Looking down upon the old woman, the servant softened his voice slightly and spoke. "I am no officer of the Security Bureau. I am but a traveler who chanced to pass beneath this gate just now. I have no wish to seize you, nor to do you harm. Only tell me what you were doing atop this gate at such an hour." Then the old woman, her eyes already wide, stared even harder into the samurai's face. She looked with sharp, inflamed eyes, like those of a carrion bird. Then she moved her lips, buried in wrinkles, as if chewing on something. The sharp Adam's apple in her thin throat could be seen moving. From that throat, a hoarse voice, gasping and wheezing, reached the servant's ears. "I thought to pluck this hair, and make a living selling it." The servant was disappointed by the old woman's unexpectedly commonplace reply. And as disappointment set in, the former hatred, mingled with cold contempt, surged back into his heart. Perhaps this shift in his demeanor communicated itself to the old woman, for still clutching the long strands of hair she had torn from the corpse's head in one hand, she stammered, in a voice like a croaking toad, saying such things as these. Indeed, plucking hair from the dead may well be a wicked deed. Yet, these dead souls here, they are not but folk who deserved such treatment. This very woman whose hair I just plucked, she hawked synthetic flesh, passed off as genuine dried provisions to the garrison outposts. Had she not succumbed to her illness, she'd still be at it now. And mark this, the soldiers, they say her wares tasted fine, and they bought them without fail. I do not think this woman's deed was evil. She would have starved otherwise. It was an act of necessity. Therefore, I do not consider what I am doing now to be evil either. This too is a matter of necessity, lest I starve. And so, this woman, who understood such necessities so well, will surely look kindly upon my actions. The old woman spoke, more or less, to this effect. The servant listened to this tale, his katana sheathed, his left hand resting on its hilt, his gaze cold. With his right hand, of course, he was absently picking at a blemish on his cheek as he listened. Yet, as he heard the story unfold, a certain courage began to stir within him. It was the very courage he had lacked moments earlier beneath the gate. And it was a courage that moved in a direction utterly opposite to the valor he had shown moments before when he had climbed atop this gate and seized the old woman. The servant no longer wavered between starvation and thievery. From the present state of his mind, the very notion of starving to death had been banished so completely from his consciousness that it was beyond even thought. "Aye, that it must be," the servant reiterated, his voice mocking when the old woman finished her tale. Then, stepping forward, he suddenly released her from his grasp, seizing the old woman by the collar instead, and bit out as if to rend her. "Then, do not begrudge me for becoming a thief. I too am a wretch who, without this, would starve to death." The servant, with swift hands, stripped the old woman of her garments. Then, as she clung to his leg, he roughly kicked her down upon the corpse. To the ladder's mouth, but 5 steps remained. The servant, clutching the stripped garments to his side, in a blink, scrambled down the steep ladder into the abyss of night. It was not long after that the old woman, who had lain as if dead, stirred among the corpses and raised her naked body. Muttering, almost groaning, she crawled towards the foot of the ladder, guided by the still flickering light. And from there, with her short, white hair bristling, she peered down from beneath the gate. Outside, there was nothing but the vast, cavernous night. No one knew where the servant had gone. In a city where every word and deed was recorded and surveilled, still no one knew where this man had vanished. At Shoujo Spins Another Age, we bring you Japanese literary masterpieces in 25 languages every week. Please subscribe and like to support us.